If I told you the real reason most American expats won't look you in the eye when you ask them if they're happy in the Philippines, you'd cancel your plane ticket tomorrow. But you need to hear it anyway, because the guy selling you the dream on YouTube, he's lying to you. And I'm about to tell you exactly how I know. I sat across from another American expat at a bar in Cebu last month, watching him tell a couple of fresh arrivals how perfect his life was here. 2 years in the Philippines, he said, best decision he'd ever made. Never going back. Living like a king on $1,200 a month. Filipinos are the nicest people on earth. Weather's always beautiful. Everything's cheap. Life's just easier here. I didn't say anything, just nursed my beer and listened. Because I've been here 11 years, and almost everything coming out of his mouth was technically true and fundamentally misleading. The kind of half-truth that gets people on a plane with completely wrong expectations. When the new guys left, I asked him why he didn't mention the things that actually matter, the stuff that breaks people who come here unprepared. He looked at me like I'd suggested he ruin Christmas. Why would I tell them the hard parts? They'll figure it out. That's the problem. By the time you figure it out, you've already made expensive mistakes, burned bridges, and maybe destroyed relationships. And the expats who've been here a while? Most won't tell you the truth because they've got something to protect. Their image, their YouTube channel, their ego, or they're just so committed to the narrative that they can't admit the hard parts out loud. I'm 68 years old. I moved to the Philippines in 2013 from New Mexico, and I'm going to tell you what American expats will not tell you about living here. Not because I want to discourage you, because you deserve to make an informed decision instead of a fantasy-based one. My name's Walter. I spent 35 years as a civil engineer, retired at 57 with a decent pension, divorced twice, 2 kids back in the States who have their own lives. I came to the Philippines originally for a 2-week vacation in 2012. Met a woman, thought I'd found something special, came back a few months later, and by 2013 I'd sold my house and moved here full-time. That relationship lasted 8 months. The life I've built since has lasted 11 years, and it looks nothing like what I expected or what any expat blogger told me it would. Here's the first thing American expats won't tell you. The cultural gap is wider than you think, and it doesn't close just because everyone's nice to you. Filipinos are genuinely warm people. The hospitality is real. But hospitality isn't intimacy. Being welcomed isn't the same as being understood. I've lived here over a decade. I have Filipino friends, neighbors I care about, routines that are completely local. And there are still moments every single week where I'm reminded I will never fully understand this culture, and it will never fully understand me. Example, I had a situation with my landlord 2 years ago. He raised my rent by $40 without notice, just told me the new price when renewal came up. In America, I'd have pushed back directly, maybe negotiated, maybe walked. Here, I asked a Filipino friend how to handle it. He told me I needed to approach it indirectly, bring it up casually, maybe have a third party mention I was thinking of moving because money was tight, and let the landlord save face while reconsidering. I tried that. The landlord smiled, said he understood, didn't budge on the price. I paid it. Because the alternative was burning a relationship in a neighborhood where I'd built goodwill for years, and goodwill here is currency you can't afford to waste. That's a tiny example, but it illustrates something bigger. You will constantly navigate a culture that operates on different rules than what you're wired for. Face-saving, indirect communication, extended family obligations that affect every decision, a totally different relationship to time and commitment. The expats who tell you Filipinos are so easy to get along with, they're often interacting at surface level, transactional relationships, bar friends, service providers. That's easy. Building deep, real friendships across that cultural gap, that takes years and constant humility. And even then, there's always distance. Second thing they won't tell you, the poverty you live alongside will weigh on you in ways you don't expect. Every expat video shows the nice parts, the beach, the cheap restaurants, the clean condo. What they don't show you is the neighborhood you walk through to get there. I live in a decent area in Mandaue, but 2 blocks from my place there are families living in structures made of scrap wood and tin. No running water. Kids playing barefoot in drainage ditches. Every single day I walk past people whose entire monthly income is less than I spend on groceries in a week. You see it everywhere. The guy washing your car for 50 pesos, that's less than $1, and he's grateful for it because he's got 3 kids to feed. The woman selling fruit on the street in 95-degree heat for 12 hours to make $4. And you can't fix it. You can be generous, I am, selectively, but you can't solve systemic poverty. And if you try to help everyone who asks, you'll go broke and become a target. That moral weight, that constant awareness that your comfortable existence is happening in the middle of desperate poverty, is something no one talks about. Some expats deal with it by just not seeing it anymore. Others throw money around and feel good temporarily. A few, like me, just live with the uncomfortable tension of it. Third thing, the everything's cheap narrative is misleading. Yes, local food is cheap. Yes, rent can be cheap if you're willing to live in basic accommodations. Yes, you can get a haircut for $2 and a beer for 60 cents. But if you want to live anything close to a Western standard of comfort, costs add up fast. You want reliable internet? That's $50 to $80 a month, and it'll still go out regularly. You want air conditioning so you can sleep at night? Your electric bill just jumped to $100 to $150 monthly. You want imported food, cheese, coffee you recognize, decent wine? You're paying Western prices or higher. Healthcare's cheap until it's not. Routine stuff, yes, very affordable. But serious medical issues? You're either going to an expensive private hospital or getting care that's, let's say, variable in quality. I had a health scare 2 years ago, chest pains, thought it might be a heart attack. Went to a top private hospital in Cebu. The care was good, the doctors were competent. But the bill for 2 days of tests and observation was $3,800. My insurance covered most of it, but without insurance that would have been catastrophic for most expats here. So yes, you can live here on $1,200 a month, but you'll be living like a lower middle class Filipino, not like the comfortable retiree the YouTube videos show. If you want comfort, convenience, and security, you're looking at $2,000 to $2,500 monthly minimum. Fourth thing they won't tell you. Visa stuff is a bureaucratic nightmare that never fully ends. I'm on a retirement visa now, the SRRV, which required depositing $20,000 in a Philippine bank and going through months of paperwork. Before that, I was extending a tourist visa every 2 months, which meant regular trips to immigration offices where you wait for hours in unair-conditioned rooms, deal with confusing requirements that seem to change depending on who you talk to, and pay various fees that may or may not be official. Even with the retirement visa, I still have to deal with annual reporting, and anytime I need something from the government, renewing a driver's license, dealing with taxes, anything, it's a multi-step process that requires patience I didn't know I had. And God help you if you run afoul of anything. Overstay your visa, miss a reporting requirement, have an issue with your papers. The system is not forgiving, and you don't have the protections you'd have back home. Fifth thing, and this is the one that really gets glossed over, relationships here, especially romantic ones, are a minefield if you're not careful. I'm going to say this as directly as I can. There are a lot of American men here who are in relationships with much younger Filipinas, and a significant percentage of those relationships are at least partly transactional, whether the guy wants to admit it or not. I'm not talking about outright scams, though those happen. I'm talking about relationships where there's a massive power imbalance, economic, age, cultural, and the guy thinks it's love. And maybe it is on some level, but it's also survival strategy for her and her family. I've watched men get taken for everything, not by criminals, by women and their families who see a foreigner as a solution to generational poverty. And the man funds the new house for her parents, the brother's tuition, the cousin's medical bills, and when the money slows down, the affection cools. I've also seen legitimate relationships work, but they work when there's awareness, boundaries, and realistic expectations on both sides. The expats in happy relationships here don't post about how they navigated those complexities. They just post pictures and say, I'm blessed. The ones in bad relationships either don't admit it or they leave. Here's the thing nobody says. If you're a 60-year-old American man and a 28-year-old Filipina is interested in you, ask yourself why. Maybe you're genuinely compatible. Or maybe you represent an economic opportunity she'd be foolish to pass up. Both can be true simultaneously. Sixth thing, you will get sick of the heat. Every expat says, I love that it's always warm. Yeah, for the first year. Then you realize it's not just warm. It's oppressively hot and humid 10 months a year, and the two cooler months are only slightly less oppressive. You sweat constantly. Your clothes never fully dry. Everything mildews. You run air conditioning all the time or you don't sleep. Going outside midday feels like being punished. I've been here 11 years and I'm still not used to it. Some days I'd give anything for a crisp 50-degree morning. You don't appreciate seasons until you don't have them anymore. Seventh, the Philippines is loud and it never stops. Roosters at 4 a.m., dogs barking all night, neighbors playing karaoke until midnight, jeepneys with no mufflers, construction starting at 6 a.m., fiestas with speakers the size of refrigerators pointed at your house. There is no noise ordinance culture here. If you're a light sleeper or you value quiet, this will drive you insane. I sleep with earplugs and a white noise machine and I still wake up regularly. Eighth thing, corruption and inefficiency are everywhere, and you'll participate in it whether you want to or not. Bribes aren't always overt. Sometimes it's just understood that you slip someone a few hundred pesos to move your paperwork along. Sometimes a police officer pulls you over for a non-existent violation, and the fine is negotiable on the spot. I've paid to expedite things. I've handed money to fixers to navigate processes I couldn't figure out on my own. It's just how things work, and you either make peace with that or you spend your life furious and stuck in bureaucratic hell. Ninth, you will be lonely sometimes, even surrounded by people. I have friends here. I'm not isolated. But the friendships I have with Filipinos are different from the friendships I had in the States. There's always a bit of cultural translation happening, and the expat friendships are often shallow. Guys passing through, drinking buddies, people who'll vanish back to their home countries without warning. Deep, long-term friendship requires shared context, history, language, culture. That's hard to build when you're a foreigner in your 60s starting from scratch. I've had periods here where I felt profoundly alone despite being in a crowded social country. Nobody talks about that. 10th thing, and this is important, going back gets harder the longer you stay. I've been here 11 years. I'm 68. My pension and Social Security go far here. If I moved back to the States, my cost of living would triple, and I'd be isolated in a different way. Older guy, limited budget, no community. I'm functionally trapped. Not in a bad situation, but trapped nonetheless. I can't afford to leave, and I'm not sure I'd fit back into American life anymore anyway. A lot of expats are in the same boat. We're here because the math works and we've built something, but we're also here because we don't have better options anymore. That's different from the living the dream story we tell online. So why do expats not tell you these things? Some genuinely don't see them anymore. They've adapted and forgotten how hard the adjustment was. Some are protecting their brand. If you're selling a course or running a YouTube channel about paradise living, you can't be too honest about the downsides. Some are just in denial, committed to the story that this was the best decision ever, and can't admit the costs. And some, like me, don't usually speak up because we don't want to be the negative guy raining on people's dreams. But here's the truth. The Philippines is a great place to live if you come with realistic expectations. a solid financial cushion, cultural humility, and flexibility. It's a terrible place to come if you're running from problems, expecting paradise, or thinking your money makes you superior. I don't regret moving here. My life is better in many ways than it would have been in New Mexico. But it's also harder in ways I didn't anticipate. And I wish someone had told me that before I sold everything and got on a plane. Before I go, I want to point you towards something that digs deeper into the reality of expat life. There's a book called Everything I Learned Living Abroad. It's not mine, but it covers the stuff people don't talk about in the glossy blog posts. The cultural adjustments, the hidden costs, the emotional toll, all of it. I wish I'd read something like that 11 years ago. Links in the description if you want to check it out. And if this resonated with you, if you appreciate hearing the unfiltered truth instead of the highlight reel, do me a favor. Subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. I'm going to keep sharing the real experiences, the uncomfortable truths, the things other expats won't say. You deserve to know what you're actually signing up for. Thanks for watching. Salamat. And whatever you decide about this life, make sure you're choosing it with your eyes open. The truth is harder than the fantasy, but it's also the only thing you can actually build a life on.